In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience taking the test and what I used to study and how I studied. The Canadian Dental Hygiene Board exam is similar yet different than the American one, but even with that, all the resources I used to study were geared towards the American board exam. What I used to study and how I studied is still going to help you guys. Hey everyone, I'm Diana. Yeah, I don't know how to say this. I have passed my board exams. I did it. I somehow managed to do it. I don't know, crazy. I'm just like lost my mind. It's released a whole new level of anxiety now because I have to go find a job. That will eventually all be in a vlog if I ever get to editing it. Expect a video about that soon. Just me talking about my interviewing journey and finding a job and what I did. I still haven't found a job, but I'm in the process of it. So I'm recording my journey, I guess. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm just gonna go set up my camera in a different place and get this video going. Alright, so this is like the most quiet area that I can find. My nephew's sleeping, and the washing machine is going, so it's pretty loud in my room. It was my niece and nephew's birthday a little bit ago, and that's still up there. So just ignore that. So I was definitely really overwhelmed with how to go about studying. It's such a big test, stressful test, that you don't want to make a mistake and like waste time studying in a way that's like not going to help you, not going to be beneficial to you and your ways and how your brain works. I had to sit down and figure out the best way to study for me. And I did start studying a bit earlier than most people, but that's because I needed the time to figure out what the best way to study was. In the end, I realized I needed something simple, straight to the point, easy layout, lots of pictures, and lots of practice questions. So the resources I used to study were, first of all, Darby and Walsh. My entire program was mainly based around this textbook. It was my go-to textbook. If something didn't make sense in another thing that I was studying, I would go back and take a look at this textbook to see what they would say. I knew this textbook was used when they were creating the questions because, again, it was listed on their list of resources to use to study for the board exam. Some of the things I didn't like about it was that it's a really big textbook and very wordy, and there's a lot of filler words, and it was just really overwhelming. Every time I opened it, my eyes didn't know where to read. I just kept jumping all over the page. I used that as like a reference book to what I was studying to make sure that I was studying the correct stuff. The next book that I used was Case Studies in Dental Hygiene. This was mainly used in my Clinic Theory 4 class. It should have been called Board Exam Prep because that's all we did in the 4th semester in Clinic Theory, was just answer question after question after question, and we used a good chunk of this book in class, and then I also took the time to take a look over it again. It's just very detailed questions about certain case studies, so they'll have like a picture of the person, their probing depths, exam, like medical dental history, radiographs, and all this detail, and then like maybe like 20 questions about it, like case study questions asking. So it's very, very helpful. I just used it to kind of get more practice in doing case study questions. And then finally, Student RDH. This was my go-to. It just ticked off a lot of the things that I needed in a resource in a textbook to be able to study properly for me personally. There were no big blocks of paragraph. Everything was broken down and it was like straight to the point. It had lots of pictures and it also had a online component to it. So I used the online and the physical textbook together to help me study. I really liked how on the online part, it would keep track of how much you've completed and tell you how far you've come through like a bit of the course. Yeah, it really pushed me to get through it all because I wanted to see that 100% completed. There was also a video for, I want to say like 95% of the stuff, and I really like that. I was able to increase the speed so that the videos would go twice as fast because some of them are like maybe 15-20 minutes long, and also I have a hard time paying attention and I need stuff to go fast, but also be able to stop and rewind if I didn't understand it. So I really like that I had something that I could look and listen, have someone teach me, and then be able to stop and rewind and listen to it again. I just can't sit long enough. I just had to maximize my attention span as much as I could, get in all the studying before I zoned out or went off into La La Land. Closer to the board exam, I ended up upgrading my account to include access to their live summits. And this was, I think, one of the main things that really helped me pass. It was so helpful. So they had live sessions and I would go to that. They were pretty long, intense, but straight to the point. It was almost an entire course, an entire 4 semesters, like crammed into that, into that three-hour block. It was so helpful. The instructors were really good. It was nice learning from a different instructor than the one that you're used to in your school, at least for me personally, because it just brought a different way of looking about things. And then also because it was live, there were people asking questions that you probably wouldn't think to ask. So I really liked that. They would also post the sessions after so you can watch them again. So I rewatched videos over and over again, and you got it at 2 times the speed. It was just great to have something to also have like a little more clarification on. I would definitely hands down say that signing up for those summits was probably one of the main things that helped me pass my board exam. So it was obviously more focused on the American dental hygiene board exam. So if you're in America and you're gonna do the test, I highly recommend these live summits. I will say some of the cons of student RDH was just sometimes in the layout of the pages there would be like mistakes, or like just like the formatting was a little off. Sometimes the picture didn't match the area that they were talking about, and just like a few little mistakes like that. But that stuff doesn't really bother me. I can just like use my brain to figure out what it was supposed to be and like move on, you know. Any of the issues I had weren't enough for me to like deter people from going ahead and buying. I will say, tip for Canadian students is if you see something in a textbook or the live summit, you go down that route online and you're like, we didn't learn this way, or I don't understand, take a second to just think and see this was more geared towards the American version, and then go back to using Darby and Walsh to confirm, and then also your school notes. Because some of the stuff was American, you just kind of had to use your common sense to be like, oh, it's different. There's different numbers, different this. Just always double check. Don't rely on one thing to get you through. Use your brain. If it doesn't make sense, go look it up. And that goes with not just student RDH, anything else that you use. And then I'll just quickly throw in there, I use the Andy RDH app. Not a lot, because it was very geared towards the American board exam. I like to use it whenever I was waiting for something in line at the store, or just was sitting around, didn't want to open up my textbook. I would just quickly, you know, do the questions on the app here and there. Personally, I wouldn't say as a Canadian taking the board exams, I wouldn't have used that as the only thing to pass the boards. Whew. Okay. My nephew woke up and then I had to go get him, and I had to change shirts because I didn't want him getting dirty, and then now I'm just like, whatever. I'm just gonna continue on with this video before I completely forget to do it. So this is the student RDH textbook that I had, coiled. It's like really big, but let me find, let's see, for example, like this is one of the pages, and I would go through each line and highlight, and it's not that I would like go back and reread again. It was just, I made sure to highlight words that I needed to focus on, or that would just help me memorize what I needed to know about that specific thing. And then of course it just helped with like following along. So the underlying and highlighting really helped me, but I know some people don't do that, but I've done it on every single section. Also, Claire, she is the creator. She does these wake up memory techniques, and so you kind of need the video to go along with that. Otherwise you're gonna see these, let me find one, like a good example. Okay, I finally found it. But there's like the 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and so she has like a picture, I don't know if you can see it like that, and so you kind of need the video to help understand how she came about this wake up memory technique. I hope I'm calling it right, something like that. Some of the stuff was like so silly that I'm not ever gonna forget, and she encourages you to make up your own, and so that's what I really liked about it. It just felt really interactive. The pros outweighed by far the cons of it. Americans, you'll definitely like this. Canadians, you'll like it too. For Canadians, I highly recommend, as well as doing this, is going into the Darby and Walsh textbook and finding everything. There's like a section in each chapter or each topic where it talks about like what the dental hygienist would do pertaining to that issue or area. Read those. Everything on the exam were questions relating to like how a dental, not everything, sorry. I want to say like 80% of it was how would a dental hygienist deal with this specific issue. For my Canadians out there watching our videos, I highly nudge, wink, wink. How do you wink? nudge, wink, wink. Recommend doing the practice tests that are available to buy off the NDHCB website. Just do it. You will, I mean, you won't regret it if you don't do it because you won't know what it's like, but whatever, it helps with the test. It helps kind of figure out the layout, what the questions will be like. Super similar. Highly recommend doing those practices. Do them. I don't know what else to tell you. Do those practice tests. So going on to what the test was actually like and like the lead up to that, there is a info session that's like 2 weeks before the actual test. Regardless, whatever date it was, it's before the test. And there they will explain everything. It's like an online thing on Zoom. They go through everything, what's expected of you. This is where you can ask questions. So basically doing it at home, we're using a proctoring service that I didn't like particularly because of their terms of terms and service agreement or whatever it's called. It's just, they just had access, way too much access to my computer. So I highly recommend using a laptop that doesn't have a lot of information, or somehow have a clean computer with none of your information, because they have access to your computer and they can go on your screen and do things like, I mean, if you come across someone, if your proctor isn't good, you know, like they just have access to your computer, and it creeps me out because like they're like moving your mouse around, they're switching off settings and stuff like that. I just didn't like it, whatever. In the info session, they explain how that works, how you're gonna sign up. Yeah, recommend the laptop. Also with the laptop, or the device that you're gonna use during the test, I highly recommend a laptop because they ask you to pick up the computer and turn it around so they can show them your room, and also you have to show underneath your desk, and you have to show them your wrists and your ears. It was like so bizarre, and you had to do that twice because you got a 15-minute break, mandatory break, and then you had to do that setup again, show them around, and then start the test. So if you have a desktop with a built-in webcam, it's gonna be difficult. I don't think it's impossible, but it's just gonna be like an added stress. I highly just recommend using a laptop, and I'm glad I did. I would also use a wireless mouse with it. I didn't have one. My Apple one obviously wouldn't connect with the laptop that I was using because I wasn't using an Apple laptop. On top of them, taking a look around the room to see if there's anyone there, we had to be in a particular spot. So our back had to be towards the door of your room, so you had to be able to see the door, and then also your windows had to be covered up. I had to cover up my TV screen. I took off my mirror. What else did I do? Cleared my entire table, nothing on it. I just had a cup of water. I did leave my fan on just as like white noise in the background, and if they had said something I would have turned it off, but they didn't, so that was fine. But yeah, they also take a look at your cup, like it needs to be clear. I don't think it can have like coffee or anything like that. Double check. Also, you can't move around a lot. You can't look off the screen. You can't make noise. I moved around a little bit, like shifted in my seat, and that was fine. Nothing, I wasn't ever called out on it. Their AI system will notice if you look off of the computer, and that sucks because sometimes, you know, like you're just sitting there and you just like stare up at the ceiling to try and think. I was like pinned straight, like just staring, like terrified that they would cancel my test because they thought I was cheating or something like that. So that was a whole added level of stress. But I will say I think it's, for me personally, better than doing it in person, because I would have been so annoyed with a new surrounding and every little sound. I would have lost my mind. They also suggest that you test the testing service on your, or the proctoring service on your computer first, and your internet speed, so definitely make sure that that's working well beforehand. Yeah, you just don't want it to be really slow or have any issues and delay your time in taking the test. And then mandatory 15 break, gotta do all that stuff again. There was no true or false questions. Each question only had 4 options to choose from. I totally forgot to mention that the actual test is 200 questions, 4 hours long, 4 hours and 15 minutes if you want to include that 15-minute break time. But you do the first 100 questions, 2 hours break, and then the second half, 100 questions in 2 hours, and then you're done. There was also a lot of like practice test questions, so they don't count towards your mark. They use the results to see if they're good enough questions to be added on a future test. And there were some that I was clearly like, I hope this is a practice like fake question, because this did not make any sense at all. But on my 15-minute break, oh my god, I finished the first half early. 15 minutes early, I went to go take my break and I went to go get a sip of coffee, and I was shaking so much because I was so nervous that I went to go put my coffee cup down, and I was drinking iced coffee, a huge jar of iced coffee. I put it down and then it's like slipped out of my hands. Like, I have an old bottle, it like slipped out of my hands, but then my reflex went to go grab it and I ended up pushing it, and coffee spilled everywhere in the kitchen. And thankfully my sister was there, she cleaned it up for me, but I was like, I would have come back late, like it would have been pretty bad. So yeah, and that like I was like, oh my god, I was like shaking. It totally threw me off. So don't do that. Try and like have a calm area, make sure nothing's gonna break, fall off while you're doing the test. I tried to like clear off everything, anything that I thought could potentially fall over, I took it down. That was the gist of my experience of studying, what I used, and what the test was like. If you've taken it already, let me know your experience on what it was like, either the American or the Canadian, whatever. I want to hear what it was like. I kind of had a sense of what the American version would be like, and it seemed from what I was hearing or explanations on the student RDH live summit sessions was that it was like very technical based, and the Canadian one seemed more dental hygiene process based, very hypothetical situations, what you do. Obviously there were still technical questions, but the majority of the time it was very, this person's having a heart attack, or this person's feeling this way, what could it be, kind of thing, and how would you go about it, what do you do in the emergency first. Like, these are the things that I can only think of right now. But yeah, there was, after I finished, obviously there was questions that I was like, wow, I was really stupid. I just started panicking. The first half I finished early, second half I was really running out of time and I was stuck on one question. I finished all the questions and I went back to like try and check, but I literally had like 2 minutes left, and there was one question that just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I clicked what ended up, I knew at the end being the right question after I looked it up, but I clicked on that one and then it said time's up. So when I get my official results, imagine if that was like I passed by like one question. Oh, and also the Canadian one, I think it gets tested or graded in a certain way. So some tests are easier, but they're graded harder, and then some tests are harder, but they're graded easier. You go onto their website, it explains everything, but it's not just completely right, wrong, right, wrong. it's marked in a certain way that it's fair. Let me know if I've missed anything down below or what your experience was, or if you have any questions that I didn't think of. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Thanks for being here on my journey to becoming a dental hygienist. I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. I love talking to you guys. I love helping you guys. Everything and anything. Just like from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for continuing to watch my videos and watching in the past and liking and commenting and everything. I'm just kind of in this like weird honeymoon anxiety. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel weird. I feel weird. My life is moving forward. I'm gonna be talking a little bit more about like the job process in my March reset video that's gonna come up after this one next week. And then I'll keep you guys updated, obviously, on if I get a job or not, what ends up happening. Anyways, I'll leave that there. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.